welcome to this video. My name is Christian from Beyond Premiere, and the first episode of The Time Traveler's Wife is here. And if you're not familiar with Audrey's book, here are some details. So the premise of the series is the same as the book, as Henry is a man who can time travel. He doesn't know when that's going to happen or how long it's going to happen, as when he travels through time, it can be a couple of weeks to a couple of months where he stays in the past or in the future. This is a genetic disorder called chronological displacement disorder that caused him to disappear suddenly and randomly throughout history, even though he may not be aware of what he's doing when it happens. So Henry goes back in time and shows up naked, and a wife who waits for him in the future. The beginning of the show gives us the introduction of the relationship these two characters are going to have and why we're going to have interest in their relationship, as well as we get a look at an older Henry, so we know that it's in the future. How did they arrive to this point is something that the show will explain. Now Clare and Henry are in this relationship, and the issue they have, which is that Henry travels back in time. Who are interviewing him? Maybe it's his daughter. That was my first theory, and I don't know a lot about the book except like some details. So episode 1 begins with our main protagonist talking about why is love intensified by absence. This is something in the prologue in the book, as well as later at the end of the episode she says the same thing that comes after this sentence.
So men went to sea and women waited for them.
The main focus at the beginning of the episode is what is the life when he goes back in time, which is leaving close behind, as well as the different things that he's doing. And the different places he arrives, like with his own cows. This is absolutely hilarious. One of the books she picks up is A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. If you ever wonder about the nature of time or how it may be possible to travel back in time, or if you want to know what was the life of Stephen Hawking, this is an excellent book. So you get a look at how his wife waited for him. Something to understand is that we're seeing different characters in different times, the present, past, and future, but it's happening at the same time in a way, as Henry can travel back in the future, back in the present, so it's confusing. In the future, he explains how he time traveled and the issue of the disability. The show quickly explains so much things about the world, the rules, so much exposition in the first 5 minutes of the episode. Going into the story of a younger Clare, who meets an older Henry, and then we later see what happened next. So this is something that the show is going to do a lot, which showcase something and how that happens, which is really interesting, as a show is not going to be boring. Because the show is explaining like, hey, how do we get to that point? Something that the show does really well is explain the first meeting. We see the first meeting of Clare, a younger Clare, meeting the first time when she met her future husband, which is so weird to say as she's 6 years old. And as well as in the future where the character of older Clare meets another version of Henry, which she explains well that she is his husband. So that's something that is really interesting to know and explain more how things are going to be connected. Also, they did the iconic cover of the book, which was nice to see. So we're introduced to a present time Clare, who is currently 20 and Henry's 28. During this time, this was the beginning of the meeting of these two characters. It was not the first meeting for her, but it was for him, which is confusing as well. So yeah. So Clare already knows him, but this is the first meeting of Henry and her. This was super shocking. So what was the first meeting for her and for Henry? It's confusing because it's different. For Henry, it was when he met the younger Clare in the past, but when was the first meeting? It's just, I'm even confused saying it. So they're meeting in the past, which is weird, which is the present for these two characters, and this is where they meet, as she knows a lot of things about him, including time travel, as we know she met him in the past. So this is the weirdness of all of this. Clare also knows that they're gonna get married and all this, so there's a lot of things that make the show interesting, and I have to say that it makes me want to know what's gonna happen next. So Clare is excited to finally get to meet him, but as we know, she met him when she was 6 years old, which was 14 years ago. In the apartment, he prepared for everything, and geez, man, have your apartment clean. Now doing this is something weird happens where he sees blood. What is going on? This is part of the sickness or what else? This is something that we're going to see in the show. Also, they have met 152 times for the future character, but that has not happened for him yet. So something that in the dinner later, like how does it happen? So why does Henry visit Clare when she was younger? This is a big question, and we get details on how they met, and it was in the past when Clare was 6, and we get that first meeting. And he was 36 when he arrived in the past. But when he travels back to the future, he's already married to her. So the show does something fun, which is the jumping around in time, as we see Henry, which is now 7, and 28 in that meeting, and when the 28 version of Henry travels back to the present to meet the character of Claire in the dinner, or it's just so how they show the event before the event. Now, something to add is that there has to be infinite versions of Henry traveling back in time to create that loop, which is what we're going to see in the show. Because, like Henry's 7-year-old said, there have to be other versions of Henry older that explains what is going to happen to Henry 7 years old. So I imagine that loop started where? Where did that loop started? That's the big question. Anyways, Claire gets mad that he is sleeping with another character of his girlfriend, but of course, time travel rules are going to be weird because for him, the character of Henry, he doesn't know her, so that's why Ingrid is his girlfriend. So later we see both Henry different ages in the past and the future as well. This is going to be more confusing as this is a character that he's 28 and the other version of Henry's 36. So yeah, time travel. Because she's in love with a future version of him, but as well don't like the past version of him is hilarious. Now this conversation is all weird, like the old version with this new version talking about the old version. This show is gonna be fun explaining what's gonna happen with the characters as the characters have different ages, which is something that they do really well, which is just like 36 version of Henry, 20 age version of Claire. The meeting of both of them was funny as well, that conversation, as they don't have a nice relationship. Of course, these are two different versions of the character. Now Henry arrives into the future to find Claire, who's 28. So yeah, this is just explaining what's happening in the show. Now in the end of the episode, Claire is now 20, and someone arrives in that moment. As we can hear the sound, the 28 version of Henry finds one of the feet of another Henry. What version is this? That's a big question. Is there an evil version of a Henry? This is what the show wants to do, which is completely different. So I find the season and the show a refreshing change from what happens in the book. I enjoy the way that it showcase the perspective of Henry and Claire in different time periods, how he experienced life differently than everyone else, and how he has to struggle with this ability to travel through time, which is something that I cannot wait to see more of. The episode goes quick, and if you think about it, that's pretty much what happened, but so much stuff happened that it makes me really interested to see more of in the upcoming weeks. So I also want to see that love relationship that the characters have with her husband, and as long as she can remember, she was 6 years old when she first met him, and the childhood of the character of Claire. There's a lot of things that are set up in the first episode, and I really want to see the next episode already. But what are your thoughts on the first episode? My name is Christian from Beyond Premiere, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye, one.